And then there's another party, the leader of which has made a living on the back of calling out mass immigration for the last 25 years. But that party hasn't come up with a policy on immigration. Do we know what net zero migration means? That's the headline, but actually net zero migration could mean 1 million people coming in each year, as long as 1 million Brits leave each year. It's about as daft a brush as a policy as you could possibly come up with. And it's vital, therefore, that if these parties wish to champion the United Kingdom and the British people, if that's what they claim they wish to do, they need to come up with a comprehensive immigration policy for illegal migration and mass migration. And even though we're only 6 months old, or 2 months since we got our registration with the Electoral Commission, you will see from this brand new party a complete holistic approach to how we're going to deal with immigration. So it's not rocket science. These other parties could do it if they wish to. They just haven't got the courage to do it. The first thing we have to remember is that this is a national emergency. Our population is growing rapidly, not because we're all reproducing like rabbits, but because we have taken our borders down. This is an emergency. So the first thing an advanced UK government will do is declare a national emergency given to the government after having been elected under that mandate. We will use the authority given by the national emergency to pass the laws that we need to pass to save the country being completely taken over by foreigners. Yes. Come on. This policy, like the last one, is in draft. It is a much thicker document that the committee responsible for it. The document itself is much thicker than the points I'm going to go through, but I'm going to pull on the main parts of that policy, focusing on the national emergency aspects. So this is not the policy that you may see into the long term from an advanced UK government. This is the immigration policy that we will use to settle the United Kingdom, save it from the trajectory that it's currently on. The other political parties are skirting around the issue. How is it that simply through the effluxion of time in this country as a foreigner that you suddenly get the right to stay here forever? How is it that we will take people in and say, well, as long as you're here for 5 years, you can break the law, you can be on benefits, you don't have to work, we'll look after you, and as long as you're here for 5 years, we'll then make you a British citizen. Well, no, sorry, forgive me. We will give you indefinite leave to remain. It doesn't make any sense. If you come to this country on a visa, either for student purposes or for work, you discharge whatever the permissions are, that you use the permissions that you had under that visa, and then you graciously absent yourself from the country. It's obvious, so we will abolish. We will abolish the granting, any further granting of indefinite leave to remain. But it's already taken quite a grip of the country. The Boris wave of immigrants, remember the guy who said he'd deliver Brexit and stop immigration? He actually let 5 million people into the country under his tenure. And if we don't reverse indefinite leave to remain back to a point in time where that Boris wave began, we will not be able to save the United Kingdom. So we have to not just abolish ILR, we have to reverse it back to 2019, when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. stop this preparedness to be all welcoming to anyone from any part of the world that claims that they're a threat at home. Asylum applications will be suspended. There will be no new asylum applications. And we will reverse back to 2019, perhaps with one or two exceptions, but we will reverse back to 2019 any asylum grants. I know for a fact that the civil service has been issuing asylum, the right to stay in this country, not because the people applying for asylum deserved it, but because they just wanted to get rid of the embarrassing backlog of asylum applications. They wanted it to look as if they've reduced the asylum backlog, and so they're rushing through the granting of asylum status. So we have to reverse that back to 2019 as well. And for goodness sake, stop giving away British citizenship. I spoke at some length in the previous presentation on culture. I spoke at some length about the contract that exists between the state and citizens. You can't possibly buy into a contract simply by sitting in the country for a period of time, which is where ILR ends up. First you get indefinitely to remain, and then you're given a British passport as if it's a right. It is not a right. It's a privilege to be British, and we will stop granting. And we've reached the stage under this national emergency where I'm afraid we're going to have to be pretty hard on people being allowed into the country for work. Visas will only be granted to people who are coming from a country that is on our new green list, which I will reveal in a second. We can't have wholesale mass migration from parts of the world that actually detest the United Kingdom. Which hold us in high regard. Why the devil have visas been granted to students' families when they come here to study? What was the principle underlying that? It is ridiculous. So there will be an immediate cancellation of all visas. All work visas will be honoured, but when they come up to their expiry, the employing companies or public sector body that was employing these foreigners on visas will have to find British workers to fill those jobs. At the end of your time under your visa, it should be absolutely natural and expected, as I said, that you graciously go back home.
Yes, sensible.
This is our green list of countries. As I say, everything is in draft, so it may change between now and when the final policy comes out. But you can see from the list of countries listed that not one of them would pose a risk to the United Kingdom. And that's where we've got to go back to. Yes, we are an outward-looking nation, but we're being overwhelmed, and right now we need to protect ourselves. So this green list will define where we will take our future working force from students and people who we grant visas to. And the student sector has become a back door to actually coming into the United Kingdom, staying here for more than 5 years, getting ILR, and getting British citizenship. They actually don't attend the universities. Many of them don't attend the universities that they were intending to, they were given a visa to attend. So we will require any student visas granted for that student to pay all their fees up front. There are 1.5 million foreigners in the country, 775,000, I think, from the European Union, who come from the withdrawal agreement, and I'm going to come back to that. The rest from other parts of the world, who are getting the benefit of our ridiculously generous state welfare system. It's costing us the thick end. These are the official figures. I think the figure's much higher. It's costing us the thick end of £10 billion a year officially. But 1.5 million times 10,000 each takes you automatically to 15 billion. And it's probably higher than that as well. I'm sure we all know that. So benefits for foreigners has to stop. Why did we even think that was a good idea? It's not an extreme policy not to give foreigners benefits. What is extreme as a policy is to do that in the first place. And we're going to encourage people who are here, foreigners who are in the country, to go home. That too should not be an extreme policy. It should not be regarded as extreme. Yes, it's radical compared to where we have been with this influx of immigration, but not once in the last 30 years, not once in the last 30 years have the British people voted for mass migration. Every single election. We have voted for less migration. We want it stopped. So it shouldn't be offensive to anyone that we encourage foreigners to go under through a consensual repatriation program where they're given time-limited incentives to leave the country. And then the other thing that we seem to have forgotten is that if you're here on a visa, and you overstay your visa and refuse to remove yourself, actually you're now in the United Kingdom illegally. But we don't recognise that. We think they've come on a visa, we don't know where they are, we'll turn a blind eye, they can stay, they can go on benefits, they can take jobs from British workers and so on, and they can stay in the country. The first step is to classify anyone in this country who is here on an expired visa as being here illegally. And encourage some people to go. As I mentioned again in our culture policy, the importance there being the reintroduction of aspiration, the work ethic, and so on. We are going to have to replace those immigrants on whom we've become so dependent and so lazy in our own habits. We're going to have to replace them with British citizens. We're going to have to encourage British citizens to come back into the workplace. As I mentioned, there are 8 million British citizens on universal credit at the moment, 4 million of which are not even looking for a job. They're not even looking for a job. I do not accept for one moment that all 4 million have such significant issues with themselves that they are unable to come back into work. That 4 million figure back in 2018 was 1 million. That's how accelerated our state of dependency has become. So we have to refuse to pay welfare to people who refuse to work. Well said. To encourage them to work, we need to take the knee of the state off the neck of the working and middle classes in this country. We must reduce taxes. It's actually a structural. You can do the maths yourself. If you take away benefits of £10,000 or £15,000 a year from someone, and you then start collecting tax of £3,000 to £5,000 a year from that same person who is now working, the British taxpayer, the state of the United Kingdom, is better off by £20,000 a head. It's good economics. It's basic 101 economics. The Labour government doesn't get it. They tried to reduce the welfare bill by £5 billion. Do you remember this fiasco? They tried to reduce the welfare bill by £5 billion, which represents 1.6% of our welfare bill. They had such a debate amongst themselves that they ended up actually spending more at the end of the debate in Parliament. It is an utter joke. An advanced UK government will absolutely cut welfare and cut taxes, get people back into work, improve their mental health issues as a result of that, and make sure that the British state is wealthier as a result of that. The next slide comes to something that, again, no government of which I'm aware has done in the past. We take people into this country, we give them a visa, we give them all the rights to roam and to work and to take our benefits and so on, and we ask for nothing in return. We don't even ask for some basic commitments in return. Well, every visa granted under an advanced UK government will require the adherence to what we now call our new residence covenant. They must obey the law. If they break the law, their visa is cancelled. They must only engage in the activity permitted by their visa. Why should they engage in any other activity? And of course, they shouldn't be engaging in political activity. We don't want foreigners coming to this country under visas and then using their opportunity in this country to promote foreign interests. They will not be allowed to advocate for foreign countries. They will not be allowed to process down Hyde Park, down through Parliament Square, and abuse the British people on their route. That will be stopped. Not be allowed to proselytize, to convert British people to whatever their ideology is. That too cannot be allowed. So any breach of the resident covenant, which will be embedded in every visa, retrospectively as well, by the way, will result in the cancellation of the visa, the individual being classified as being here illegally, and then they will suffer the consequences, which I will come to in a second, of illegal migration. Somehow, the government has convinced itself, and many in this country, that stopping illegal migration is somehow an extreme thing. That actually illegal migration is the way of the future, that climate change is giving rise to large movements of people, that there's an inability, through our adherence to the European Convention of Human Rights, for us to actually stamp our foot down and say, no, you're not coming into our country illegally. The extreme policy here is not stopping people at our front door. The extreme policy is opening our front door and welcoming everyone in. It makes no sense. Obviously, stopping, granting them the right to stay in 4-star hotels, on our air bases, in our social housing, getting free medical care, free dental care, free iPad, translators, cash in their back pocket, and goodness knows what else. Instead of that, we're going to do something radical. It's not extreme, it's radical because it changes from the past. We will recognize them to be what they are, which is here illegally. They would have broken our laws, so they will be arrested, they will be detained, and then they will be deported to the maximum. Which started off by saying that if you enter this country illegally, you will never be allowed to stay in this country. By the time it became an act, that had gone. It became a shadow of itself, and that Illegal Migration Act has never been enacted. We must reacquaint ourselves with the notion that British law applies in the United Kingdom, and if you've been judged to be illegally here and judged to be deported, you will be deported. You can't appeal. Why the devil should we be allowed to appeal? And if we can't get their countries to take home those they sent to us illegally, then we will sanction those countries, or we will remove aid from those countries, or, failing all of that, this individual, I'm afraid, will remain incarcerated for as long as it takes for them to voluntarily get on a plane and go home. And the last point, there's so many points which are really needless to make. But if you're a foreigner and you've broken the law and you're in a British jail, about 100,000 places for British jails, 10,000 of them are taken by foreigners, costing us over £50,000 per head per annum to keep these foreigners in our jail. Why are they here? Deport the lot of them. Once a phenomenal force for the United Kingdom, dispatched across the globe in order to do the bidding of the Crown, now can't even stop a flipping rubber dinghy in the channel. And it's not because the Royal Navy and the naval officers and cadets and everyone else are incapable of discharging their duty. It's because their political masters are not invoking them to do their duty. The Royal Navy will be given full legal protection, and it will be instructed to intercept dinghies, turn them round, and invite them to go back to France. I know France is an awful country. We need to develop a bit of stiff upper lip and send them back there. And obviously, we'll give the Navy all the tools that it needs in order to do its job. And I tell you folks, if a dinghy full of single young men from Afghanistan, Somalia and wherever come up against a frigate that refuses to let it pass, I think they'll go back to France pretty damn quickly. They're not completely critical. And, Starmer makes a big thing about breaking smuggling gangs. I don't know if he's aware that most of these smuggling gangs are based in Europe. It's there that the trade is taking place. There are members, however, in the United Kingdom who welcome people. As one digression. What you see, the people you see coming off Border Force boats and RNLI boats, they're the ones of which we're aware. There are many others coming across who are not intercepted and given a warm cup of tea and a Kit Kat on a state-sponsored British ferry from the middle of our territorial waters back to shore. There are many who actually, under their own steam, under their dinghies, land on our shores, and they are met by illegal smugglers in this country. And we must tackle those illegal smugglers. They must face the full force of British laws. And, for goodness sake, stop the payments to France. It would seem to us as well that the Home Office is hijacked. It is the job required to be done will not be done by them. So the advanced UK government is going to establish an immigration enforcement court and tribunal. IEFT, amongst its other obligations, will police the residence covenant. It will be the authority that is able to direct the police to take action where it needs to take action. And then to the extent there's a legal process which has to be gone through, it will be the IFT that oversees that legal process. And again, there will be no right of appeal. There will be no mechanism for some left-wing charitable entity interceding and funding the legal fees, or the government funding the legal fees of people who are here illegally. The IFT will act, it will act decisively, and it will send people to prison and then deportation. In order to give effect to all of this, there are a couple of things we need to do which I've already mentioned. The first is leave the ECHR, so our Navy can do what it needs to do. We can detain these people, we can incarcerate them, deport them. Leave the ECHR, reverse the Human Rights Act. But there's one other thing that we need to do, and I love this bit. I love this bit. We have to denounce, as I said in my statement on culture, we have to denounce the withdrawal agreement. And I'll tell you why we have to do that. Because the withdrawal agreement has in it this Northern Ireland Protocol. And in the Northern Ireland Protocol, it doesn't just require that Northern Ireland continues to stick and commit itself to the European Convention of Human Rights, as does the Good Friday Belfast Agreement. But it goes on to establish also European Union human rights laws in Northern Ireland. And unless we denounce the withdrawal agreement, unless we tear it up, if we enact the policies that I've just described in Great Britain as distinct from Northern Ireland, every illegal migrant will leave Great Britain and go to Northern Ireland. It will become a repository for illegal migration. And this, my erstwhile party, actually put that forward as their mass deportation policy, that they would leave the ECHR in Great Britain, but leave Northern Ireland subject to EU human rights laws and the ECHR, making Northern Ireland a repository for illegal migration, and basically not achieving diddly squat, because everyone coming to this country will know that they're safe in Northern Ireland. But here's the thing. If you remove the ECHR from Northern Ireland and EU human rights law from Northern Ireland, guess where all the illegal migrants are going to go? They're going to go to the Republic of Ireland. What a shame. How do you think? It's so obvious, I shouldn't be asking the question. I'll make it a rhetorical question. How do you think the Republic of Ireland is going to respond? It only has one response, the Republic. It is to eject from its own body of law the ECHR and European Union human rights law. This is not the aim of our policy, but I just want all Irish citizens to be aware of this. If we do what's right for the United Kingdom, we will save the Republic of Ireland. That took me 16 minutes, I think. No, 15 minutes. 25 minutes, something like that. It took me 25 minutes to set out 10 policies, which would save this country. People keep telling me, Ben, it's too far gone, you can't do it, it's too far gone. It's not too far gone. Yeah, so now we come to the part, actually, frankly, that I enjoy the most, which is Q&A, which gives you the opportunity to tell me that, you know, what I've been talking about is a little bit off, or at least cross-question me on it. Hopefully the latter.